On a single day, Sunday, 18th of June 1815, the destinies of three men would converge upon a rain-soaked muddy field in the Belgian countryside south of Brussels. Napoleon, Wellington, Blücher, the choices they made, the courage they commanded, the mistakes they committed, would not only decide the outcome of a single battle, but would also draw the map for a new century in Europe. This is the story of that day. This is the story of the Battle of Waterloo. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to the Rise and Relic. The immediate cause of this monumental clash began just a few months earlier. In March of 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte escaped from his forced exile on the small island of Elba, a speck of land in the Mediterranean Sea. He landed in France with a handful of followers, but his return was met not with resistance, but with a wave of popular support. The soldiers sent to arrest him instead flocked to his banner, and his journey to Paris became a triumphal procession. He reclaimed his title as emperor, beginning a period that would later be known as the 100 Days, a final, fleeting chapter of his extraordinary reign. This sudden and dramatic return sent shockwaves of alarm through the royal courts of Europe. The great powers, Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia, had only just concluded the Congress of Vienna, a meeting intended to restore order and stability to the continent after years of Napoleonic wars. They had redrawn borders and re-established old monarchies, believing the era of Napoleon was truly over. Now their work was threatened. They immediately declared Napoleon an outlaw, not an enemy sovereign, but a common disturber of world peace. They refused to negotiate and instead formed the Seventh Coalition, pledging to amass their vast armies to crush him for good. For Napoleon, the strategic situation was perilous. He was vastly outnumbered. The combined armies of the coalition would eventually number over 500,000 men. At the heart of this epic conflict were the three commanders, each a titan of his age, whose personalities and styles would profoundly influence the day's events. Triptych: Napoleon, Wellington, Blücher. First was Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of the French. Master of offensive warfare, strategic brilliance, ability to inspire fanatical loyalty, preference for bold, decisive maneuvers. He sought to dictate the terms of battle, strike at his enemy's weakest point, with overwhelming force, achieve a swift, shattering victory that would break his opponent's will to fight on. He was the ultimate aggressor, always seeking the initiative. His primary adversary on the field was Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington. Aristocratic, bearing iron self-control Napoleon, flamboyant, aggressive. But Wellington, cautious, methodical, and a genius of the defensive battle. With meticulous planning, using terrain to his advantage, hiding troops behind ridges to protect them from artillery, revealing them at the crucial moment to deliver devastating volleys. The third key figure was Field Marshal Gebhard von Blücher, Marshal Vorwärts, relentless, aggressive, incredibly resilient. The battle itself took place on a surprisingly compact piece of land, a stretch of rolling farmland just south of the village of Waterloo, and about 15 kilometers from Brussels. The terrain was not dramatic, but its subtle features would prove to be of immense tactical importance. The dominant feature was the Mont Saint-Jean ridge. Wellington positioned his main body behind it. The reverse slope protected his infantry from Napoleon's artillery and concealed their true numbers from French observers. Napoleon's army faced them from the opposing ridge to the south. The shallow, open valley between the ridges was a killing ground about 1 kilometre wide, exposed to cannon and musket fire. Three key fortified farm complexes dotted that valley. Hougoumont, stone buildings, gardens, woods guarded the Allied right. It functioned as a small fortress. La Haye-Sainte sat beside the main road to Brussels. Smaller but vital, it commanded the road and anchored the centre. Control of La Haye-Sainte was essential to assault the ridge. Plancenoit lay to the southeast, behind the French right, initially unimportant, later the Prussian Axis, threatening to encircle Napoleon from the east. They were meant to disrupt the French attack. They drew in disproportionate numbers of enemy troops. They bled the attackers in attritional fighting. Wellington garrisoned Hougoumont and La Haye-Sainte with his best troops. So long as they held, the ridge behind them stayed secure. The battlefield was a prepared stage. Every ridge, every wall, every hedge played a part. The battle did not begin at dawn, as Napoleon might have wished. A violent thunderstorm had raged through the night, turning the rich farmland into a quagmire that clung to every boot, every cannon wheel, every hoof. Cannonballs needed firm ground to ricochet. At Waterloo, they thudded into mud and died, neutralizing the Emperor's favourite weapon. Napoleon delayed, hoping the sun would dry the ground. The battle that could have started at 9 did not begin until about 11:30. Reasonable tactically, catastrophic strategically. Every minute wasted was a minute gained for the Prussians. Around 11:30, the battle opened not with the main assault, but with the diversionary attack on the Château d'Hougoumont. Napoleon's brother, Prince Jérôme, led the French division. What was meant to draw off reserves became a battle within a battle. Vicious, personal, fought at stone walls, gates, and in the woods. A French party smashed down the north gate and surged inside. The defenders fought them off and slammed the gate, trapping and killing all but one drummer boy. Hougoumont held all day, sucking in over 10,000 French troops needed elsewhere. Around 1:30, Napoleon unleashed his grand battery. 80 guns, hammering Wellington's centre-left in a deafening storm of iron. Men huddled behind the ridge, unable to strike back, forced to endure. Then Marshal Delaune sent nearly 18,000 men forward, drums beating, eagles high, pushing back the front slope and cresting the ridge. Wellington's centre tottered, and he unleashed the British heavy cavalry, the Household Brigade and the Union Brigade to smash the columns back down the hill. The horsemen crashed through, scattering the French and turning success into disorderly retreat. After 4 o'clock, Marshal Michel Ney misinterpreted movement in the Allied centre, ambulances and wounded going rearward, and thought the line was collapsing. Seizing the moment, he ordered a massive, unsupported cavalry charge, without infantry or artillery coordination. Thousands of cuirassiers and lancers thundered up the muddy slope, a magnificent, terrifying sight. But Wellington's battalions formed tight, bristling infantry squares in moments. Horses would not charge that hedge of steel. The cavalry swirled around like water round rock, raked by disciplined volleys. Between charges, Allied gunners dashed to their pieces, blasted canister, then fell back to the squares. For almost 2 hours, Ney hurled wave after wave. Incredible bravery, appalling tactics, exhausting Napoleon's elite cavalry. The Allied infantry stood firm, bloodied but unbroken, buying time for hope on the eastern horizon. Everything depended on time. Would the Prussians arrive? Ney's mistake bled away the mounted reserve Napoleon would need at the end. Wellington's line was bending, but not breaking. As evening fell, Blucher's Prussians finally crashed into the battle. Elements of his army struck Napoleon's right near Plancenoit, igniting savage fighting that saw the village change hands multiple times. Napoleon was forced to divert precious units, even elements of the Imperial Guard, to fight a second battle to protect his rear. He was now trapped between two armies, the anvil of Wellington and the hammer of Blucher. With his army squeezed and the light fading, Napoleon knew he had one last card to play. He committed his final reserve, the legendary Imperial Guard, his finest veteran soldiers. Around 7:30, they advanced in perfect order to shatter Wellington's centre, ignoring the cannon fire that tore through their ranks. For a moment it seemed they might succeed where all others had failed. Then, at Wellington's command, the British foot guards rose and fired a devastating volley at point-blank range. The seemingly invincible Guard faltered, and a cry spread like wildfire. The Guard retreats. Seeing their heroes retreat, the French will to fight evaporated. Panic. Rout. Wellington signalled a general advance. The battle was over. Waterloo ended Napoleon's rule for good. It secured the peace made at the Congress of Vienna, leading to decades of stability in Europe. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe Rise and Relic to join our journey through time.